Thanks a lot. Okay, so now we're going to move up a little bit and maybe change into higher gear as I invite our speakers for a dynamic panel discussion of these issues we heard about with innovation. So please help me welcome back to the stage Secretary Gordon England, if you can please join us. Mrs. Esti Peshin, please. And Mr. Lawrence Pengri. And I'm very happy to say that with us today for the panel, we'll have another distinguished gentleman joining us, Mr. Mark Gazit. Mark is the CEO of Tetere. Tetere is a very innovative startup company, and I'm proud to tell you that not only did Tetere recently secure another $10 million in round B funding. Is that right, Mark? Yeah. $10 million, very nice, including JVP and General Electric. But not only that, the core technology for Tetere was developed right here at Tel Aviv University by our very own Professor Amir Averbuch, who is right here with us. So I'm excited to have you all with us today. All right, so let's jump right into it, shall we, guys? You have your mics right over there. And I want to start with a little bit of a trend casting kind of question. Let's look to the future. As you all know, this week is not just the cybersecurity week, it's the Cyber Week in Israel. We have the DLD Innovation Festival, which is one of our partners. And there's also a science fiction movie festival, if you're a fan, and I am. And I'd like to ask you all to engage in a little bit of science fiction with me right now. Try and look more than 5, 10 years even down the line. And if you could, each of you tell me, one single technology, really just one area of technology that you think is going to be the biggest game changer for cybersecurity. Just one thing. Let's start with you, Mark, please.
So thank you very much, Ken, for being here. And just in a nutshell, what Tetere does, it takes a huge amount of information. We heard some numbers. Analyze it extremely fast, and then identify known threats. So in a way, we take data that we don't know anything about it, and we find attacks that we don't even expect. And actually, for me, it answers your question, because we've just been told by Keith Alexander that we have 2.4 billion internet users. Actually, we have 4 billion registered internet users, but some of them register the email twice. Today, we have 50 billion devices. Being able to speak with each other. And one of the reasons General Electric invested twice in our company is because they are strong believers in the industrial internet. Or shall I say it, Internet of Machines, as Lawrence mentioned. And I believe that this is a huge game changer, those machines starting to speak with each other. How many of you have seen the movie Matrix?
Everybody's seen The Matrix, I think. If not,
I haven't.
Spoiler. Yeah.
So those machines speak with each other, and it has already started. And I'm a strong believer in the fact that we're coming to a point where human beings are not fast enough, and Lawrence have mentioned it in your presentation, to make decisions. We will need machines to help human beings to deal with security. So I believe this is probably the most interesting area that will change the world of security within a few years.
That's an interesting perspective, Mark. And you know, it reminds me of a question I heard a few days ago. Do you know what is the most popular language in the world? You might think it's Chinese.
Java, C++?
Yes, it's Java. That's right. It's not English, it's not Chinese. There are more people who speak Java, or more devices that speak Java. I actually read yesterday that even the Mars Curiosity rover, developed by the Jet Propulsion Labs at NASA, even that device speaks Java. So it's even not just on this planet, right? We're going to have to start counting other devices. And with that in mind, if we look to the future, so devices and machines, what do you think, Lawrence, is going to be one, single game-changing technology?
Oh, gosh. A panacea in security, huh?
Well, I'm not asking about the solution, actually. But
I would say that the biggest concept is the rise of behavioral analytics.
Okay, behavioral analytics.
It's very much what you've spoken about. We have this tremendous amount of data. In the advertising industry, they use a tremendous amount of intelligence to understand everything about you. I just recently had a baby, and whenever I go to CNN.com, it pops up a little advertisement from Pampers, and little baby cries, and so I mean, we could do the same thing with security, but we need to open up our sharing. We need to give each other that information, and it can be done in a private setting and without impacting customers. From a privacy standpoint.
So that sounds like you actually said two things, right?
Sorry.
One, that's okay. You'll pay for it later. But, one is behavior analytics, but the second is sharing that information onwards and not, breaking up the information silos, as it were. And what's your perspective on that, Esti? And what do you think, if you can add to the new devices that are joining our connected cyberspace, the behavioral analytics, the sharing? What's your take?
So I'll try to engage in a little bit of wishful thinking.
That's very good.
Looking 10 years ahead, I hope that we will manage to overcome the attribution challenge.
Attribution.
Because today, when we look at cyberspace, it's inherently asymmetric. The bad guys have the upper hand. And when we try to conceptualize the reason for this is because there is an attribution challenge. We find it very difficult to attribute an attack to a physical attacker. Once we manage to overcome this challenge, there will be deterrence because we will be able to retaliate against the attackers. The cost of an attack will increase.
So you expect some change to happen in how we achieve attribution, and that's going to be a significant change maker for our industry?
Yes, I know that today there are many startups that are looking into this. Because this would definitely be a game changer. And I hope that one or more of them will emerge successfully, maybe a combination of technologies that will allow us, the good guys, the blue side, to be able to attribute to a good likelihood the physical origin of an attack.
So I'd like to use that as a jumping point for my question to you, Secretary England. I think we heard a lot about intelligence. We heard now from Esti about attribution. It seems to me like a lot of the innovation happening in the industry right now is really focused on detection and analysis of what just happened. And we've kind of let it all, the prevention side and stopping bad things from happening in the first place, that's taken, a back seat or, a different priority. And I'm wondering if that's just a necessity of the times we are facing. You mentioned the difficulty for American companies right now with certain nation states and the deluge of data outside of the United States. So would you say it's the industry has accepted that preventing is not going to happen, and we're focusing a lot of the innovative attention and effort on that detection, analysis, attribution, and trying to build from that? What's your take on that?
Well, of course, we're very, very early in this technology. I mean, frankly, the digital age is early. I mean, we're still at the very scratching the surface of all this, and it's changing dramatically, and the rate of change is going to go up even faster. So when you start talking about 10 years from now, I'm not sure we even know what's going to be out there in 10 years,
That's
frankly.
science fiction.
Well, I mean, first of all, a lot of the existing systems will be there, but new systems will quickly take over. So this is a very, I would say, immature technology at this point. And you're right, we largely detect, and then we manually decide what we're going to do. And we frankly don't have much in the way of cooperation. I mean, if someone gets attacked, it'd be very nice to know exactly how they were attacked and what the techniques were. But as I commented, people don't want to expose their vulnerabilities. And they also have proprietary data. So, look, I think organizationally, I think process-wise, technology-wise, we have a long way to go. But at some point, I do believe that we have to find ways to be more cooperative in this venture. I do not believe that any company or enterprise is large enough to do this alone. I mean, this is, we used to have an old saying about this, no country is large enough to go things alone anymore, and no country is so small they can't contribute. And I think that's the way it is in this whole cyber area.
I happen to agree with your perspective, and I think the other panelists mentioned about the need for collaboration and sharing information. However, there's one technology that I didn't hear any of you mentioning, and perhaps you mentioned this earlier in your speeches. What about automation? What about making those decisions happen faster, right? Mark, I think you mentioned, and Lawrence, you said so as well, intelligence is going to influence the way our technology makes decisions.
Yeah.
So if we can make it faster, automated, take that behavioral analytics and really use it for more prevention, I think it might contribute to better security solutions down the line. However, I want to kind of push on to, we're talking about innovation, and right now we spoke about what are going to be interesting technology in the future. And another topic, which I think this panel is very capable of addressing, is why innovate and how to innovate, and particularly how to bring that together. I really want to hear the perspectives from the startup, from the analyst, from the defense company, and for the Secretary of Defense, to hear their perspectives. And you are now, of course, also heavily involved with the cybersecurity startup ecosystem. I really want to hear how can we bridge that gap between innovative technologies, how we can bring them to market, and introduce them into those 500-pound gorillas and the dinosaurs and the huge companies that are worth billions but are now looking for that competitive edge in the garages and in the basements. So I'd like to start with ST's perspective, please. It's okay?
Okay, so if I may, I'd like to maybe start by commenting on something you said regarding the intelligence or the need to automate or make more decisions more rapidly. And I think the fact of the matter is if we are constantly chasing the bad guys.
Yeah.
Okay, they are attacking more and more, and they're attacking in a more sophisticated manner. And we are, in terms of the technology, we're trying to make the technology more efficient or more effective in a manner that it will allow us to detect or maybe even to prevent more and more attacks. But the question is there a game changer that can decrease the number of attacks? So I, for one, think that technologies related to attribution, and by the way, startup guys here in the room, we are looking for those. So if you have these, please come to me after the panel.
This is a good time to actually, thanks Esti for that. This is a good time to remind our audience that this year at the conference we also have a startup showcase outside. So you can, during the breaks and today and tomorrow, you'll be able to meet with some of the best new innovative startups in Israel. So thanks for that, Esti. That's a good reminder.
So startups, please come to me afterwards. But attribution is definitely a game changer, and so is regulation, but this will be handled in other panels. Now, relating to your question, I think that fostering innovation is a key. And in order to do this effectively, I think the end users, the customers, the people who are actually at the forefront of the use of the technology must bring their needs to the table. I can share with you that to date, most of the highly effective technologies that we either developed in IAI or brought to the table from other startups derived from customer challenges, customers coming to us and saying, hey, do you have a solution to so-and-so? And normally the answer of a 500-pound gorilla would be, hey, let me check, then
I think normally the answer is let us check, and then like really quickly let's buy a startup that can help address that market need. And I've never seen a big company, a big 500-pound gorilla say, no, we can't do that. We don't have the technology to do that. The first thing is, yes, we have that. We have a huge portfolio. We have like 500 different types of software, and then they kind of mix it up in the back end and provide that to the market.
So we had the honor to actually develop some of the solutions on our own within our innovation centers. Some of our solutions in the innovation centers we established outside IAI, and some of the solutions in collaboration with other companies.
Okay, so Secretary England, I see you're edging to share your insight with us. And backstage, we spoke about how some of the best innovation in the world is happening in Israel, but all over the world are innovative technologies. Thank you. But there's always that problem to take that innovative technology and bring it to the market. And backstage, you offer this, rule of three, right? Everybody who served in the Israeli military knows that everything is divided by three. And it turns out the U.S. Military and the Defense Administration has a similar rule. So let's hear it.
Well, the comment I made to Karen was, it's really a difficult road from, a terrific idea to finally having something in the marketplace. And so the rule I've always gone with is the rule of 1, 2, 3. So you take one time the energy and the money to come up with some really terrific idea. And so for all the people here, entrepreneurs, you get this great idea. And I would say a lot of people then feel like, well, okay, I've got it made. I got this great idea. But then you really have to get into phase 2, and phase 2 is twice the money and twice the time, and that is you have to take that great idea and you have to commercialize it somehow so that people can, actually implement and use it. But you're still not finished, because then you go into what I call step 3, 1, 2, 3, and step 3 is 3 times the money and 3 times the time. And that is, you now actually have to work with companies, commercialize it again, get some market, etc. And so that's why there's a lot of these VC firms out there, people like Yuval that, I'm with, and other firms, I'm sure, here in Israel and around the world, because they provide funding. And I will tell you the situation today, at least in the United States, is while there's lots of big companies with a lot of money, they're really not investing in startups. They want to actually see a product in the marketplace that has some customers and some cash flow. And then, of course, they're very interested. So you really have to go through this 1, 2, 3 process. And it costs more and it's longer than I think most entrepreneurs think.
Yeah.
Because they typically get to step 1 and they feel like I'm there.
Yeah.
And you still have a long way to go, and it takes money to do that. So you have to find a VC or somebody that can bridge enough money to get to a real product.
If I can kind of crystallize that, because we also had some audio difficulties. So it takes a certain amount of money to come up with that brilliant new idea. It takes twice that amount of money to commercialize that idea, bring it to market. And then, according to your rule of 3 times as much time and money and effort to really create the right branding, the market positioning, and make it into a valid, viable product. And I think I see our panelists eager to respond to that. But I hope they disagree with you, so we have an interesting panel. But I'd like to say that I think it's very common, especially for Israeli entrepreneurs, to completely ignore that the second half of that equation. And then they reach the stage of trying to address the market with an empty fuel tank. And that's a piece of advice we hear repeatedly from investors, and yet it's not always taken to heart. So what do you think, first Mark, then Lawrence, please. What do you think, Mark, about this?
So I think it's a great opportunity. This is my 5th startup, and when I was looking for a startup...
Your 5th?
My 5th.
Your 5th startup.
And when I was looking for a startup that can become the next billion-dollar company, I actually asked Orna Berry, who is sitting here and is considered to be the mother of the Israeli high-tech, and she told me there is a new way. Go to the university, which is very new, because we knew that university doesn't create...
Go to the university.
Go to the university, and that's what I've done. And I have to tell you that there is the innovation, there is a revolution in the process of innovation. I think today there is a need for deep research. And I think universities and academy is something that can take risks that large organizations can't.
Interesting.
I've been in the research center of GE that exists for more than 130 years. And still we have ideas that they didn't, because professors in universities don't afraid to fail. And today...
Because they have a tenureship. So
absolutely. And also they are not, in a way, they're entrepreneurs. Being in universities, running a startup, I learned that to get grants, it's like raising funds. So I believe that going to the universities, getting ideas, combining those ideas with great guys who's coming from the Israeli military, can create enormous stuff. And we have two professors. One is from Tel Aviv University, and it's a great place to take to get technologies for startups. And the second one is from Yale University, sitting for 20 years on the advisory board of DARPA. So he understands the other side of it, and combination of deep fundamental research. And maybe one thing I should say about Israel, you know, I know that in the United States STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, is a big thing.
Yeah.
And I would
science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
And I believe that in Israel also we need to put a lot of efforts to have more kids taking the STEM area and not necessarily the business, legal, etc., which are important.
But when you go to politics, you have my vote. Lawrence?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest problem is that technology doesn't sell itself. It also doesn't market itself.
Well, Israeli technology markets itself, it sells itself, it goes up and down the stairs.
You would think that if I have the coolest product in the market that, oh, geez, everyone's going to buy it. But the reality is much different. If nobody knows you have something, how are they going to know to buy it? I find a lot of technology firms, they have a great idea, they're very innovative, but they don't balance their budget against marketing and sales execution. So they end up, like you said, out of money,
empty,
and they've got this great technology, but they're gone now.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think it's important for startups to realize where they fill a gap in the ecosystem. Because you need to know that unless you have a complete replacement technology, you will end up in part of someone else's portfolio.
So, market position.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's step number 2 in Secretary England's 3-point system. I really liked it, by the way. Everything in Israel. It's very easy if you explain it in 3. So I want to touch on the point of the Israeli innovation. I know it's kind of a theme for us. And Esti, this one's for you. With your experience, not just with the elite technology unit that shall not be numbered, and the Israeli high-tech caucus, the lobby. So everybody talks about the startup nation. And how special, how unique is this military specific intelligence unit's contribution to the security industry? Would we have a different type of industry? Would it look differently if people that served in those technology units would not go into high-tech entrepreneurship? What do you see? Gentlemen?
Doesn't like me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are constantly changing mics here. Okay. So yeah, I think that when we look at the ecosystem as an ecosystem, is definitely the fact that some of the entrepreneurs come from these elite technology units in the army is significant. There are 2 reasons for this. One reason is the fact that it's, in a sense, a closed ecosystem. Everyone knows everyone. So it's a small community. It's a small scene. They can get good referrals. They can find investors. They can find potential co-founders, etc.
Yeah, but Esti, that's a product of the Israeli size in general, right? It's
True.
not just unique to the military or high-tech, right? Even if I was a fashion designer in Israel, I'd only have like 30 other fashion designers that I need to work or compete with.
That's true. I think it's relevant for all of Israel. I think it's especially relevant for the high-tech scene. It's a closely knit group. Everyone knows everyone. I mean, if you just go through the VIP lounge here, everyone is saying hello to everyone. We know each other. It helps. And the second aspect is that these elite technology units have a tendency to teach the young soldiers that it's okay to make mistakes, that it's okay to try and to fail.
T&E.
T&E? What's
Trial
the?
and error. It's instead of R&D.
I'd say TNF.
But I'm trying this new buzzword. We'll see if it catches. Thanks.
But when we look at entrepreneur, I think one of the most determining factors about his potential success is how many failures he has already had.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting perspective, Esti. And before we move on, I think we're just about ready for our last question for this panel. So, earlier I asked you, down the line, 5, 10 years down the line, what's the single game-changing technology that you expect? Right now, what I'm interested is your perspective on what's happening today. 2014, Israel, United States, other markets. What are you seeing right now in the market that is exciting, that is making changes happen, that is a potential for disruption? And I'd like to hear Lawrence's perspective on that. As
Sure.
Gartner analyst, I think
So,
your opinion
here
is...
I create a lot of these trends, but not create them. I watch them in the market. But
As a Gartner analyst, you kind of create these trends, right?
Well, that's my job.
Yeah.
So I would say that the most game-changing things are, one of the statements earlier was that we're really focused on detection. Well, detection always precedes enforcement. So you can't enforce something you don't know about. Mm-hmm. So, the security industry ebbs and flows between detection and then prevention. And
this is something you've seen.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple of
ago.
times in my career. And really, we have a refinement that occurs, and then you can do enforcement. I think that the number one trend is not only the intelligence awareness, but it's the adaptive response. So it's not just black and white anymore, folks. It's not just untrusted and trusted. It's a gradient scale. Okay, so you don't have to just block something. You can start to augment your strategy, increase logging, blocking, maybe quarantining, etc. But those adaptive controls, I think, are the future.
All right, that reminds me of how the Iron Dome system decides automatically, to a certain extent, whether to intercept a rocket or not, and then there's the human element that makes that final decision.
I think even the alerting system has like a polygonal system, right, where it tells and alerts people to the intelligence of an incoming missile, just the same way.
Well, I'm getting the signal that we need to wrap up our panel, so I'm sorry you couldn't hear more from your insights and your perspective. However, we will have a break later on, and I encourage the audience to come up to our panelists and badger them with questions, and we will try to make your comments, your talks, your presentations available online as video as well. And I honestly really look forward to continuing this discussion backstage. So please help me in thanking our distinguished panel members, Mark Gazit, Lawrence Pingree, Esti Peshin, and Secretary Gordon England. Thank you so much. And if you'll follow me. Okay.